For example, we need to make sure that folks who are working now, often in the hardest jobs, see their work rewarded with wages that allow them to raise a family without falling into poverty. Today, a family with 2 kids that works hard and relies on a minimum wage salary still lives below the poverty line. That's wrong, and we should fix it. We should reward an honest day's work with honest wages, and that's why we should raise the minimum wage to $9 an hour and make it a wage you can live on. And even though some cities have bounced back pretty quickly from the recession, we know that there are communities and neighborhoods within cities or in small towns that haven't bounced back. Cities like Chicago are ringed with former factory towns that never came back all the way from plants packing up. There are pockets of poverty where young adults are still looking for their first job. And that's why on Tuesday I announced, and that's part of what I want to focus on here in Chicago and across the country, is my intention to partner with 20 of the hardest hit communities in America to get them back in the game. Get them back in the game. First of all, we'll work with local leaders to cut through red tape and improve things like public safety and education and housing. And we'll bring all the resources to bear in a coordinated fashion so that we can get that tipping point where suddenly a community starts feeling like things are changing and we can come back. Second of all, if you're willing to play a role in a child's education, then we'll help you reform your schools. We want to see more and more partnerships of the kind that Rahm is trying to set up. Third, we're going to help bring jobs and growth to hard-hit neighborhoods by giving tax breaks to business owners who invest and hire in those neighborhoods. Fourth, and specific to the issue of violence, because it's very hard to develop economically if people don't feel safe. If they don't feel like they can walk down the street and shop at a store without getting hit over the head or worse, then commerce dries up, businesses don't want to locate, families move out, you get into the wrong cycle. So we're going to target neighborhoods struggling to deal with violent crime and help them reduce that violence in ways that have been proven to work. And I know this is a priority of your mayor's. It's going to be a priority of mine.
We've been watching the president in his hometown of Chicago talking at length on the need for gun safety and to provide for children at every step on the economic ladder. Joining us now are my colleagues Touré and Crystal Ball, co-hosts of The Cycle, and Jonathan Capehart, who's an MSNBC contributor and an opinion writer for The Washington Post. Touré, if I can start with you. The president there was emphatic on the role of fathers. He spoke of the fact that it's not an achievement to prove that you're a man because you have the ability to conceive a child, but the courage to raise one. Have you ever heard him recently speaking in such a direct way about the responsibility of fatherhood?
No, not quite like that, and talked a little bit in a very personal way about family, wishing that he'd had a father and recognizing the importance of having a father in the home who's a positive role model.
America got what it takes to fill a job opening, but they may have been out of work so long that nobody's willing to give them a chance right now. Let's put our people back to work rebuilding vacant homes in need of repair. Young people can get experience, apprenticeships, learn a trade, and we're removing blight from our community. You know, if we gather together what works, we can extend more ladders of opportunity for anybody who's working to build a strong middle-class life for themselves. Because in America, your destiny shouldn't be determined by where you live, where you were born. It should be determined by how big you're willing to dream, how much effort and sweat and tears you're willing to put in to realizing that dream. And when I first moved to Chicago, before any of the students in this room were born, and a whole lot of people who were in the audience remember me from those days, I lived in a community on the south side, right up the block, but I also worked further south where communities had been devastated by some of the steel plants closing. And my job was to work with churches and lay people and local leaders to rebuild neighborhoods and improve schools and help young people who felt like they had nowhere to turn. And those of you who work with me, Reverend Love, you remember it wasn't easy. Progress didn't come quickly. Sometimes I got so discouraged I thought about just giving up. But what kept me going was the belief that with enough determination and effort and persistence and perseverance, change is always possible. That we may not be able to help everybody, but if we help a few, then that propels progress forward. We may not be able to save every child from gun violence, but if we save a few, that starts changing the atmosphere in our communities. We may not be able to get everybody a job right away, but if we get a few folks a job, then everybody starts feeling a little more hopeful and a little more encouraged. Neighborhood by neighborhood, one block by one block, one family at a time. Now, this is what I had a chance to talk about when I met with some young men from Hyde Park Academy who were participating in this BAM program. Where are the guys I talked to? Hey, stand up, y'all, so we can all see you guys. So these are some. These are all some exceptional young men, and I couldn't be prouder of them. And the reason I'm proud of them is because a lot of them have had some issues. That's part of the reason why you guys are in the program. But what I explained to them was I had issues too when I was their age. I just had an environment that was a little more forgiving. So when I screwed up, the consequences weren't as high as when kids on the south side screw up. So I had more of a safety net. But these guys are no different than me. And we had that conversation about what does it take to change. And the same thing that it takes for us individually to change, I said to them, that's what it takes for communities to change. That's what it takes for countries to change. It's not easy, but it does require us, first of all, having a vision about where we want to be. It requires us recognizing that it will be hard work getting there. It requires us being able to overcome and persevere in the face of roadblocks and disappointments and failures. It requires us reflecting internally about who we are and what we believe in, and facing up to our own fears and insecurities, and admitting when we're wrong. And that same thing that we have to do in our individual lives that these guys talked about, well, that's what we have to do for our communities. And it will not be easy, but it can be done. When Hydea Pendleton and her classmates visited Washington 3 weeks ago, they spent time visiting the monuments, including the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial just off the National Mall. And that memorial stands as a tribute to everything Dr. King achieved in his lifetime. But it also reminds us of how hard that work was and how many disappointments he experienced. He was here in Chicago fighting poverty, and just like a lot of us, there were times where he felt like he was losing hope. So in some ways, that memorial is a testament not to work that's completed, but it's a testament to the work that remains unfinished. His goal was to free us not only from the shackles of discrimination, but from the shadow of poverty that haunts too many of our communities. The self-destructive impulses and the mindless violence that claims so many lives of so many innocent young people. These are difficult challenges. No solution we offer will be perfect, but perfection has never been our goal. Our goal has been to try and make whatever difference we can. Our goal has been to engage in the hard but necessary work of bringing America one step closer to the nation we know we can be. And if we do that, if we're striving with every fiber of our being to strengthen our middle class, to extend ladders of opportunity for everybody who's trying to, as hard as they can, to create a better life for themselves, if we do everything in our power to keep our children safe from harm, if we're fulfilling our obligations to one another and to future generations, if we make that effort, then I'm confident that we will write the next great chapter in our American story. I'm not going to be able to do it by myself, though. Nobody can. We're going to have to do it together. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Thank you.